my name is XPLovecat and welcome to my channel. Today's going to be another video in my series on being a new GM or keeper, and it's all about prepping the table. Now, you might just think this is pulling up some chairs and you're good to go. There's a little bit more to it and I'm about to get into it. Alright, you've picked out your system and you're ready to go. Now, the first thing to preparing the table is making sure you have friends around it to play the game with. So in order to find people to play with, I usually recommend trying your family and friends first to see if there's anyone interested in playing. So basically, we're going to sit around the table for like 4 to 5 hours, pretending to be other people, rolling some dice and comparing it to numbers on our sheet of paper, and telling a story with our imaginations. Not all of your family and friends are going to be interested in playing, and that's okay. The next step I would recommend looking into would be any school clubs or your FLGS, which is your friendly local game store. Now, these game stores are usually privately owned, and there are places where they sell board games or RPG manuals and have a place in the back to play different games, including RPGs. The owners of these game stores can usually connect you with people who are looking for a group to play with. If those avenues don't work, I would turn to social media, which includes Facebook, meetup.com, Reddit, specifically some subreddits like Looking for a Group or LFG. And these should help you connect with people who also don't have groups to play with. Also, if you ever get the opportunity, going to RPG or board gaming conventions can also help connect you with a ton of people who share your hobby. And you might make friends who you eventually play with online. And just remember, if you are playing with people you've never played with before, make sure that you do it in a public space just until you guys get to know each other. You have some people who are interested, but how many people is actually ideal for playing an RPG? Let's start with one GM. There are games out there that are meant to be played by yourself. I normally wouldn't choose this option just because for me, RPGs are a very social thing and a time to hang out with my friends, instead of just playing a video game. But there are people out there that really enjoy it, and if you do, go for it. One GM and one PC. This could do in a bind, but really I find that more brains equals more ideas and more craziness, so you might lose some of that PC interaction with just having one of them. The flow of the game is going to be really fast, so expect it to move at a quick pace. One GM and two PCs. This is going to be a little bit better, and the game is still going to flow very quickly. But in this situation, the two PCs, they're always either on the same page or against each other. There's nothing really to balance them out in the decisions that are being made. So that just offers a different dynamic than if you had multiple PCs. One GM and 3 or 4 PCs, I'm going to lump into the same because this is really the sweet spot. There's enough PCs to get multiple ideas going and some crazy stories. But there's not too many that players lose interest, and you're able to really keep everyone engaged. The story usually progresses at a pretty good rate, and nothing goes too slow or too fast. One GM and 5 PCs is my upper limit. So the table can become pretty unmanageable, and it can especially be difficult for new GMs or keepers. So while you can definitely have that many people, there's going to be some added challenges, especially when it comes to making sure that everyone is engaged when they're playing. Combat and investigation is going to be lengthened, and when the focus is not on a specific PC, they're more likely to become disengaged from the game. So this can be a little bit tough. Anything more than 5 PCs is just too much. The next thing to tackle with preparing the table is setting expectations with your players. My recommendation is to at least have your group commit to playing once a month. Particularly if you're playing a campaign, this is really important to be able to keep the story moving and keep everyone engaged in the game that's being played. And the max frequency I would recommend is 1 time per week, as being a GM is exhausting. So I'm going to have RPGs on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which means I have to plan on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And that leaves Saturday for everything else. The next thing to address is playstyle. Now, this might be a little bit tricky if you've never played RPGs before, but if you do have some sort of idea of how you like to play, make sure that you tell your players before you start. So this would include either heavy role play, or if you prefer to be more serious or silly when you play RPGs. Make sure that your players know the content of play, so the setting and the system that they're playing, just to make sure that everyone is interested in what's chosen. So we're still setting expectations with our players, and the next couple points have to do with the number one rule in playing RPGs, which, if you remember, is that everyone playing the game is having fun. Otherwise, what's the point? So the first thing is to make sure that you address any off-limit topics with your players. Role-playing games can sometimes include heavy or triggering topics, such as racism, sexual violence, or suicide. And you'll want to make sure that your players are comfortable with all of these things if you were to include them in the game. Games like this are often used as a form of escapism, and you wouldn't want to make anyone uncomfortable or ruin that for someone. Making sure that these off-limit topics are addressed before play is going to make the experience better for everyone. It's also good to let your players know that there's an open door for communication and that you're always willing to take feedback. So again, making sure everyone is having fun. So if they're not enjoying something, or if there's something that they would rather change about the system, they should be comfortable in going to you and suggesting that so that everyone can have fun at the table. Just make sure they know that this feedback should be given after a session instead of during play, because that's going to ruin the flow and really take away from the game. So these conversations should happen outside of your normal sessions. Next is to prepare your PCs, and that means making sure they have the supplies they need and their character ready to go for the first session. Most of the time they'll only need a set of dice, but if they're not able to provide that, make sure that you are. And I would also recommend that the PCs have their characters created prior to your first session. So maybe you do a character creation party, or maybe you just have one-on-one time with each of your PCs to make sure that they have their character ready to go. That way, on the day, you can all jump right into the game and not have to worry about any of that setup. And the last thing is preparing your space, whether that's in person or online. If it's online, whether you're going to use Discord, Roll20, and making sure everyone has the appropriate programs installed on their computer. If you're planning to play in person, making sure that you have an appropriate space to do that, whether it's your local game store or someone's house. If it is at someone's house, making sure that there's plenty of space and everyone feels comfortable in that environment. And lastly, don't forget the snacks. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe, and check out my other videos on being a new GM or keeper. I walk you through choosing a system, choosing a pre-made scenario, additional research you might need to do, all the way through running your first session. Thank you for watching. Bye!